All right, we're already heading into week 4, and there are 12 waivers that I need to talk to you guys about that you need to go make a bid on and just set yourself up for success for not only week 4, but beyond. The first guy I want to talk about here is clearly Bucky Irvin. This is a guy that's showing some spectacular things over there with the Buccaneers. And Rashad Wright, he needs to be looking over his shoulder at this guy. Absolutely spectacular. We just look at Bucky Irvin. I mean, he had 3 or more carries than White against the Broncos, right? Irvin could be the leading the charge sooner rather than later. Irving is averaging 6.2 yards per carry compared to White's 2.1 yards per carry thus far this season. It's only a matter of time before we see Bucky Irvin really start taking a little bit more of the workload away from White. As of right now, White is the lead ball carrier right there, but I wanted to say pump your brakes just a little bit because Bucky Irvin, could be on the rise. He's showing flashes. He was great out of the University of Oregon, showing the ability to catch the football and also showing the ability, even at his smaller frame, to be able to run consistently. He was able to do that last week, rocking and rolling. I mean, he was even, having those 3 more carries. He had more of a workload than Rashad White. You gotta love what you see out of Bucky Irvin. Go ahead and pick him up on your waivers. He's somebody right now you can probably start, but even towards the back end of the season could be a premier running back for your team. Next guy I want to talk about is go pick him up on waivers. We're talking about Jauan Jennings, and yes, I understand he had a great week because of all the injuries, right? Deebo Samuel was injured. We had George Kittle with that injury. We've got Christian McCaffrey. A lot of injuries with the 49ers. And Jauan Jennings really capitalized. But what you have to think about is he capitalized with Brandon Ayuk even on the team. So he did really, really well. We saw what he was able to put up this week, and he was going absolute bananas. He's always a good asset to have in the case of injuries in the future, right? And like I was saying, with Deebo and Kittle out, Jennings really shined. 11 receptions, 175 yards, and 3 touchdowns as the second 49ers player ever to have 10 plus receptions and 3 plus touchdowns in a game. The other player to do so, well, that's just going to be Jerry Rice. And we all know how he ended up, right? So not saying Jauan Jennings, pump those brakes just a little bit. Not saying Jauan Jennings is Rashee Rice, is Jerry Rice, right? I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying he put up a pretty good performance, and he's somebody that you can have on your bench, maybe put him in your flex play. And if there is some injuries, some lingering things with Deebo, he's going to miss a couple more weeks. That's somebody you can plug and play. Jauan Jennings could be a phenomenal asset for your team. Coming in, the next guy I want to talk about here is Sam Darnold. Guys, I told you on this channel in the offseason, if it wasn't for JJ McCarthy, I would have a high amount of Sam Darnold on my teams. I think he's a good quarterback. He had just a bad shake. He started out there with the Jets, cock-a-doodle team. Went over there to the Panthers, cock-a-doodle team. Then he went over to the 49ers behind Brock Purdy. He was able to do good when he did fill in for Purdy when he was injured. So I know he's got the talent. Now he has the ability with a Justin Jefferson wide receiver out there. He's showing what he can do. He is beast mode right now. We saw he was just going absolute bananas this week. He has scored over 43 fantasy points over the last 2 weeks, which do include a 4 touchdown performance against the Texans. He is currently the number 2 quarterback behind Lamar Jackson. Now, if that doesn't tell you anything, I mean, the dude can play some football, and he's putting up fantasy points for you, which is going to help your team out just drastically, right? So let's just move it right along here. The next guy I want to talk about here, well, we're talking clearly Andy Dalton, right? A lot of people don't want to talk about Andy Dalton, and that's okay. That's okay. But Andy Dalton has a place on your waiver wire. Pick him. I think, if anything, they really showed Bryce Young, you are just absolute squat, right? Because if Andy Dalton come here and perform the way he did, absolute bonkers. But like I was saying, man, did he just light up Bryce Young's career? I think he lit it up on fire, right? Coming in, throwing over 300 yards, just routing the Raiders in week 3. He has a natural connection with newly acquired Deontay Johnson, right? We saw he was throwing, he's a float, nice touchdown pass to Adam Thielen as well. And I'm telling you, it was hyper target. We saw Andy Dalton last year hyper target Adam Thielen. Now he's hyper targeting Deontay Johnson. Woo! I'm telling you guys, if you have a chance to go get yourself some Deontay Johnson, he could be an absolute league winner as well. I think I have a lot of Deontay Johnson on my lineups already because I saw it. I saw the cockadoodle Bryce Young getting benched sooner rather than later. They are done with this guy. Andy Dalton coming in here and putting up the numbers he can. There's no way they go back to Bryce Young anytime soon. It would take an injury from Dalton for Bryce Young to have to come back. And I just don't think it's going to happen. I think he is done in Carolina. So next guy we're going to talk about here is going to be Tucker Kraft. Guys, we have to prevent and kind of predict the future, right? That's what waivers is about. Who do you think is going to be really, really well? I think Tucker Kraft has a chance of being amazing once Jordan Love comes back. We have to remember, I called it out there. Musgrave was drafted ahead of of Kraft, right? And I said it, I think he's a better pass receiver. He's a better tight end overall. They ended up giving Luke Musgrave the start last year at tight end. He ended up getting injured. Tucker Kraft comes in absolutely bonkers and bananas. He was going crazy, right? Starts the season, Luke Musgrave almost an afterthought at this point. Tucker Kraft's getting all the work, right? He was injured a little bit last week, which why you saw Musgrave's numbers or snap share kind of rise a little bit, but I'm not worried about that, right? So he's a tight end that will explode. Absolutely explode, I'm telling you guys. When Jordan Love's come back, Jordan Love is close to be back playing. He has completely taken over the number one role in this offense. With Musgrave, he's not even getting close. And when I tell you he's not getting close to the amount of reps and snaps that Tucker Kraft is doing. They like his ability to receive the ball. He is going to be phenomenal. Pick him up right now. Not a lot of people are on him on waivers because he didn't have a great week in week 3, but you need to be proactive because as soon as Jordan Love comes back to town, it's going to be the Tucker Kraft show. I like what I see there just based on the snap share that he has right now. Next guy we're talking about here, we're going to go back into the well, same as last week, but Quentin Johnson. I was trying to tell you guys in the offseason, Quentin Johnson, 6'4" wide receiver out of TCU. He can make some plays. His problem was he was just dropping the football a lot. Now, he's looking like he's able to secure some of these passes, able to get out there and catch the football, and he's clearly trying to be the number one wide receiver for this offense. Not Palmer, not McConkey. It's going to be Quentin Johnson. So he scored 3 touchdowns in the last 2 games. Looks to be securing that number one wide receiver role in this offense. He leads the Chargers in routes run, receiving yards, and receiving touchdowns. He's doing everything that you want out of a number one wide receiver, and he's putting up those fantasy points with those 3 touchdowns in the last 2 games. I'm loving what I'm seeing out of Quentin Johnson. Go get yourself on the waivers and grab yourself some Quentin Johnson, guys. The next guy we're talking about, I'm going to have to say Braylon Allen, not because he's somebody you can set it and forget it, start right now, but in the case, God forbid, something happens to Breece Hall, I think Braylon Allen is by far the best handcuff you can have in fantasy football right now. The way that he runs the football, he's flex appeal right now. You could even start him in the flex as a number 2 running back behind Breece Hall. That means he's doing really, really well. It was just a couple weeks ago, he had a rushing touchdown and a receiving touchdown. He can blow up on any given week, and if God forbid Breece Hall misses sometimes, you're going to have yourself a guy. But like Braylon Allen, right? Like I said, one of the best handcuffs in football. If something does happen to Breece, he's a league winner. Set it and forget it. Allen only played 32% of the snaps last week, but he needs to be added in all leagues. Like I said, just in case, God forbid, an injury to Breece Hall. That's all I got to say. Go add yourself some Braylon Allen. Next guy I want to go over here is going to be Cole Kmet, somebody that you really need to start looking at. He didn't really have a great start to the season, but last week he really exploded. So looking at Cole Kmet, he had 10 receptions for 97 yards and a touchdown in week 3. Now, as Caleb Williams continues to mature, the connection between him and Kmet will only strengthen. That's going to happen. I told you guys in the offseason, Cole Kmet is somebody you have to target. When you have a rookie quarterback coming in, the tight end position is most likely going to be that safety blanket for them. And we saw in week 3, now that he's kind of putting things together, Caleb Williams really focused on Cole Kmet. He almost had 100 yards receiving. Somebody you need to go out there and get into waivers before it is too late. Cole Kmet can easily be a top 5 tight end this year if he keeps being utilized the way he was utilized in week 3. Go get yourself some Cole Kmet. Move right along here. Next guy, Wan'Dale Robinson. This is a wide receiver. Again, I told you guys in the offseason, I know Malik Neighbors is going in there, but you want that dink and dunk type of wide receiver that you can really rely on, and that is Wan'Dale Robinson. Daniel Jones is kind of relying on this guy to catch a lot of passes on the opposite side of Malik Neighbors. He was drafted for a reason. He's starting to show some of his talent. So Wan'Dale Robinson, he's been targeted 24 times in the first 3 weeks. Opportunities are there in an offense that will be throwing almost every single week. They are a bad football team. They're going to be in a negative game script and throwing a lot. You need to go get yourself some Wan'Dale Robinson. He can get you a nice wide receiver 3 or flex option each and every week. I'm liking what I see out of Wan'Dale Robinson. The next guy we have to go over, well, let's talk about Carson Steele, right? He's probably going to be the hot commodity as of right now for the waiver wire targets. It looks like Samaje Perine, really an afterthought, really not getting as many carries as Carson Steele. They were really leaning on this guy, having 17 carries last week. He wasn't able to have this, crazy fantasy week, but I mean, he's shown that he's getting those opportunities. So looking at Carson Steele, he had 17 carries, like I said, for his first game, taking over for that injured Isaiah Pacheco. While we didn't have a massive fantasy day, that undrafted rookie received 62% of the snaps of this backfield. Be on the lookout for Kareem Hunt, though. He was added to the practice squad, so if he gets activated off of the practice squad, then Steele is he's a must-add. If he doesn't get activated off the practice squad, you've got to add Steele. If Kareem Hunt does get activated off of the practice squad, then I would say, hey, pump your brakes just a little bit, because even though he got 17 carries, he didn't get over 100 yards or even 90 yards or even 80 yards on 17 carries. Kareem Hunt could probably give you that. I think he's still got enough juice in the tank to do so. So next guy I want to talk about here is going to be Darnell Mooney, another guy that I was preaching on this channel in the offseason that you have to get, right? He was a #1 wide receiver not too many years ago for the Chicago Bears. And we have to look, how did Kirk Cousins treat Jordan Addison over there with the Minnesota Vikings? That's what I see Darnell Mooney doing right now. I mean, he went really good, had a great game, and had another good game against the Chiefs last week. So Mooney is averaging more than 16 fantasy points per game in the last 2 weeks and is second on the team in targets with 18. The only other player to have more targets on this team is Drake London, and he only has 19. So Cousins really seems to be leaning on Mooney a lot in a lot of situations. He's getting more comfortable with Darnell Mooney and being able to catch the football. So he needs to be added in all leagues. He can be started as a good wide receiver for your team week in and week out. He is putting those type of numbers up. I love it. But come here at number 12, the last guy on waivers I want to talk about is Tyler Conklin. And yes, Tyler Conklin, another one of those guys I was touting in the offseason. Look, Aaron Rodgers likes to throw to his tight end position. And yes, the season didn't start good at all. Tyler Conklin was pretty much absent, nowhere to be seen. But he could put up fantasy numbers for you, and I like what he can do. Just look at Tyler Conklin. Rodgers is finally getting the tight end involved. And if this keeps up, you really see a sleeper option type of appeal for Tyler Conklin. Last week, he led the Jets with 93 receiving yards on 6 targets. Even though the last time Conklin scored a touchdown was in 2022, if Rodgers continues targeting Conklin, it's only a matter of time before he hits pay dirt, right? He's going to get over there and get those yards, and he's going to get the opportunities for you. He could be a great waiver wire ad that not a lot of people are really looking at as of right now. If he has another big game, then he's going to be a hot waiver wire target. What we want to do here at the Bayou Bingo Fantasy Network is kind of give you some of these guys, maybe even a week early if we can. That way you can get these guys on your roster, guys. But those are 12 waiver wires you need to add for this week to help you dominate your team. Make sure you guys hitting the like button and hit the subscribe button, right? Leave a comment down below. Which one of these waiver wire targets are you really wanting to spend the most fab on to make sure you get these guys on your team? I can't wait to see you guys on the next video. We'll see you guys next time.